You want to know what's happening on the big board? I'll tell you what's happening on the big board. Kevin, CEO, big man, is counting down his top 10 games of 2018. I don't care.
Hey, welcome to the big board. So today I thought we would do something fun. It's March and it's a little late, but I thought it might be fun to take a look back at 2018, have a look at some of the games we played, have a look at the 8 or 10 favorite games of mine that I enjoyed playing, look at 2 or 3 bad games, and then look at some of the games that were fairly innovative that I thought that I enjoyed. Now, somewhere along the line, I decided to call that the good, the bad, and the ugly. Really, it's not the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all good. We'll just see what happens. Okay, so bear with me. We're going to run through these titles. I know the camera may not look awesome, but it's going to get better because we're going to switch cameras in just a minute once we kind of run through things. So, without further ado, let's have a look.
10. 10. 10!
That's right. The Korean War. Fantastic fun. Let's have a look at it and talk a little bit more about what I enjoyed about my very brief experience with this game. All right. So the first game we want to talk about in our top 10 was the Korean War. I only got to play a little bit of this game, just a couple of turns, but was struck by how very, very interesting the game was. Despite its age, it has worn well, as they say. Perhaps not as absolutely historical as historical. Yeah, not as historical as some that are around, but it still plays incredibly well. And then, of course, unsurprisingly, I enjoyed it because it's a Joseph Belkowski game. Yet another epic title from him. Played real well, both solitaire and opposed. We played this on Vassal, so my copy is still actually unpunched, and got great satisfaction from seeing the very quick drive by the North Vietnamese and then having that all go to hell in a handbasket very quickly as the US forces started to arrive. So it's got that wonderful ebb and flow. It's beautifully done. I think this is unpunched. I'm not even sure. Yeah, still unpunched here. So at some point I am going to get this back on the table and we'll do a full campaign by myself. We'll do this solo. So a great title that clocked in at number 10 as already stated.
I swear to God, I really don't want to do this. 9.
Now this game actually turns up in its appropriate slot and one other slot as well, and we'll have some fun having a look at this one as well. Now I am going to talk about this in a different section of the video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I am just going to show you some of the components very quickly so you can get a look and feel for it. And then what you can do is, if you listen in at the innovators section at the end of the game, at the end of this video, I should say, you will be able to see and hear a little bit more about what I thought of the game and why I thought what I thought. And why can't I, I'm trying to get to the city section of the map. Here you go, here. Some real nice graphic art done here. It's very, very thematic. There's a full mounted map that comes with the game as well. It's got some card-driven activities that occur, and there are multiple sets of stickers that you can choose to use, either the designer versions or the icon stickers, as the case may be, depending on your desire. Only 10 pages or 12 pages of rules, something along that nature, and a very smart AI that you will hear more about in a little while. So that clocked in, and its appropriate spot there, number 9.
Obviously, it's 8. I mean, if Kevin didn't screw it all up, we're at 8. Huh?
Indeed. Flat Top, a fantastic experience playing with a group of guys, both of us, both sides plotting their moves and really digging into the meat of the system.
Now, you might find it curious that a game from 1981 is in my top 10 for 2018. But we played this opposed, and it was an amazing experience. It's a beautiful, large mounted map. It has a very thematic set of gameplay. It is, unfortunately, of course, all hidden gameplay. You can see my copy's pretty well hacked up and done and dusted, but it's a significant amount of work that goes into playing this game. It is well worth it. It's probably not the most 100% accurate in terms of OB and mechanics and things like that, but it's very thematic, and it all kind of comes together and works very well. So I really enjoyed having the opportunity to play this opposed, because I've only ever played it solo in the past. And of course, probably one of the most iconic Roger McGowan covers ever, coming back from his heyday.
7. I want to go play my game. 7.
Yep. This one has proved its worth in the second, this is actually the third volume by Sean Chick and published by Hollenspiel.
Designed by Sean Chick. You're going to have the base module for this, and it's expensive, but it's well worth it if you like, for instance, Command & Colors Ancients or Command & Colors Napoleonics or any of those Borg-esque games. This is a hex and counter version of that, except you're not using cards. It's not a card-driven system, right? And this module deals specifically with the 7 Years' War, and there's other modules out as well. Of course, this is module 3. I would highly encourage you to try it. It's kind of the thinking man's Command & Colors is how I look at it. And it's got a great theme coming out of it. Lots of interesting scenarios. Let's pull this out here. So as you can see here, we've got Zorndorf and Bergen and Montmorency and Minden and Torgau and Kolin and Lobositz and all the rest of it. So some updates to the core rules in here as well. And then one of the things that I like most about this game is that it really does dig in and focus on each individual nation's particular capabilities, and there are little special capabilities for nearly all the different forces.
You gotta be real stupid to have agreed to do something like this. Counting down top 10. I mean, really. What's he gonna have me do next? Turn cards or panels like Vanna White? 6.
Now I know what you're saying. How can that possibly be a game from 2018 when it was made in 2019? The box is too big for me to hold up and manage the keyboard and the mouse and everything else as well. So this is an expansion for OST, Old School Tactical, on the Western Front.
I'm not sure how to even go about showing all of this. You've seen lots of my write-ups probably about my gameplay with the OST system. Suffice to say, lots of cool scenarios, lots of big 1-inch counters, massive boards with large hexes, great artwork. The revisions to the rules, I forget what version we're on now, but make it a much cleaner, faster playing game, and makes tanks makes tanks far more interesting. Before, it was very difficult to kill tanks. Tank-on-tank battle often ended up being a case of damaging each other multiple times and not ending up with a kill. That's now been fixed. this is the main box. And the box I showed you, the Airborne box, came with the Kickstarter. So 2 big boxes. And you can see the size compared to a normal scale box, which I don't have handy. Significantly larger, lots of counters, lots of scenarios, and some innovative gameplay mechanics. It's not like Lock and Load. It's not like ASL. It's not like Band of Brothers. It is its own beast. It does have, obviously, many things in common with a lot of those games, but at its core, it's a tactical system that relies on activation points that are generated via die rolling, and then the gameplay mechanics from there are more or less similar to many other games, but there are some unique features as you dig into and one of these games. As you unpack it and start playing, you'll see that you'll need slightly different tactics to be successful as one side or the other, versus just your typical ASL approach or Lock and Load approach or Band of Brothers approach or Combat Commander approach or whoever else is the latest guy on the latest guy on the block, right? So there you go. Old school tactical, Western Front 1944-45. It's a Mark Walker game, but designed by Shane Logan from Flying Pigs. All the best.
You were probably wondering when a GMT game would hit the top 10 list and at what position, and here it is. An older game, right? We'll get into this and have a conversation about it.
Well, it wouldn't be a top 10 without a bird game, right? And this particular game, I've had it for quite a while, had not played it, played Carthage a lot, obviously. It's the Ancient Worlds series. It is a fairly robust system, but very straightforward. In the end of the day, really what we're doing here is chip pull, and chip pull by leader. Each leader gets a certain number of activations depending on the number of the caliber of his leadership rating. You've got forces you've got to raise, legions you've got to raise, senators get their chance to be consul and all that sort of fun stuff, and you've got to go and conquer the Samnites and all that sort of good bits and pieces. There's lots of charts in here, but it's not that hard a game. Combat is pretty straightforward. Movement is pretty interesting because you've got this friction that goes on, this attrition that occurs over time in a given activation. The further you move, the more attrition you suffer. And if you don't control the area, then you pay a higher attrition rate than you would if you did control the area. Things of that nature. Very interesting games. I loved this and had great fun. Played just the one scenario out of it, but really enjoyed it almost as much as I enjoyed playing Carthage. So fun times with that one.
4, 4, 4, 4.
Back-to-back GMT titles in the top 10. Not bad, huh? Let's have a look.
So I'm going to try and not gush over this thing. I've only got 1.5 plays in of this, and it is fantastic. It has its bones deeply rooted in the World War mechanics, in terms of efficiency ratings and the way movement works and the way combat works and things of that nature. And then it has an entire set of layers for the air war and SAMs and special forces and ballistic missiles and navies and you name it, it's in there. And it does it all very, very, very well. Probably one of the most clear rule books I've come across in a long time. It's almost like you're reading a Frank Chadwick book, rule book. Beautifully done, great artwork. I guess I can show you some of it in here. That's kind of, and this also has area movement, as well as just regular hex and counter movement. And there's good reasons for dealing with the Estonia Peninsula, this area, Lithuania and whatnot, in such a fashion. That's all well explained there. But then you've got the full map. Lots of counters, lots of Soviet forces, etc., special forces, and all that sort of good stuff. Excellent game. Can't speak more highly of it, and I'm looking forward to the next volumes as they arise.
3. I'm really getting tired of this. Hey, Chantal, isn't this fun? Doing this for Kevin? Hey, isn't it fun?
I don't want to be there.
3.
Stop it.
I don't want to be there either.
Now, it was difficult for me to choose the number 3 slot, and it was probably always going to be a multi-man publishing title, and it was always probably going to be a TCS title, with OCS coming in a close second. I played quite a bit of OCS online, opposed, this last year, but I also played Canadian Crucible, opposed and solo, and enjoyed both of them very much. Let's have a little bit more of a look at this.
Canadian Crucible, I get the sense that there are a lot of folks, all the TCS fans and some of the designers and developers that really get their knickers in a twist when I complain about the TCS system. And it's funny because what I'm complaining about is the fact that they're not really making a lot more of these games, or don't appear to be investing in the system, arguably because it doesn't sell well. And so they think that it's a pricing problem, and so they're getting rid of the boxes and selling the next one that comes out after this in a Ziploc bag. I don't want to pay $40, $45 for a Ziploc bag game. Whatever the price point is, not sure I want to pay it unless it's 30 or less. I want a boxed game like this with beautiful artwork and the series rules. I'd like to see this series rule book in color, please. Instead of us having to go and make our own charts and color tables as the fans have done. Beautiful artwork on the map. Look at that. Great counters. Interesting topic. Extremely well researched and very historically accurate. It all plays so well. It just frustrates the hell out of me that there's not more of these games being made at a faster rate in a box. And I am not going to be supporting this system any further. I will play the ones I own, and that will be it. Anything that comes out in a Ziploc bag, unless I pick it up cheap for $30 or less, it won't be purchased by me. But in the meantime, you can thoroughly enjoy Canadian Crucible. This was a fantastic system for me this year. I played a couple of different modules, and played this opposed and then played it solo, and had an absolute blast with this thing. So it's very, very entertaining gameplay and a fantastic system. It is not as hard as it looks, and the orders system makes it a great solitaire game system for you to invest in. Highly recommended.
2, dos, due, deux, zwei, ni.
Yeah. Europeans have done really well in my 2018 gameplays and in the rankings, as you can tell. So most of you know how to pronounce this correctly, and I may not. So we're going to leave it at that. I'll let you read the title, and let's have a look at.
All right, here we go. Look at that box artwork. That tells you you're in for a treat, right? Yeah, I've got to pull out my other Kawakijimas in there as well. I only got to play the Battle of Sekigahara. I don't know if we played it twice. I think that maybe it was just the one time. We talked about playing it a second time, and we talked about what we would do, I think. Or maybe I did play it twice. I don't know. But anyway, gorgeous maps, right? Let me just let the camera focus for you. Gorgeous maps. Fantastic artwork on the counters, which I'll show you in just a second. Great gameplay. Highly explanatory charts. Very well done CRT. Beautiful rule book. I loved playing this. We had a absolute blast. Now I don't think we used mine to play. We used my buddies. Well, maybe we did. Well, I don't know where all the counters are, but you can see the exact representative counters from. Actually, yeah, you can see these here. Let's see if we can zoom in there a little bit. There you go. They're pretty thematics counters. And these ones here have all the mons from the various different clans. I thought that was pretty cool as well. Excellent game. That's why it hit all the buttons for me into what a great war game should be, and that's why it's ranked where it is.
Yay! Won! Thank you very much. I can't wait till we meet Kevin so I can beat the crap out of you.
That's right. A third European designed, developed, and manufactured title. Austerlitz 1805 from the Rising Eagles system, or Eagles of France system. And it's a Hexasim title, so Hexasim take out the number 2 and number 1 slot.
And here we go. The last one in our top 10. Austerlitz 1805, the Eagles of France system. This is called Rising Eagles from Hexasim. So 2 titles from Hexasim, and number 1, number 2 slot. This was truly also a great experience from counters to maps. You notice there's no hex numbers on these, right? Fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved the victory conditions. Loved the loved the gameplay. Loved the use of hidden cores. So each core receives 3 chits that are placed on the map, and they've got to stay within a certain range of each other. But so the enemy doesn't know really which is the real core, right? This is dealing with the fog at Austerlitz, so that made it particularly challenging. And as the visibility range increases, it makes it a little bit easier to find the bad guys. But it adds such a level of suspense to an already fantastic battle and battle system that it's pretty hard to walk away from going, no, I didn't enjoy that. You will have a great time with this game. I like the level of detail that's provided here. A lot of folks saying at this sort of tactical level, or grand tactical level, that we should be having more detail in terms of melee, cavalry charges, unit facing, and things of that nature. I think this game system and the way orders are done, another fascinating aspect of this game. The way orders are done and whatnot really drives the Napoleonic flavor and puts you in the commander's seat, the overall army commander's seat. What are going to be your tactics? What are going to be your strategies? How are you going to be successful? Where can you get to? What happens if you want to change your orders? What's your enemy doing? All those sorts of things play into making this a very, very consumable and very, very approachable war game system for Napoleonics. It's really well done.
All right, so that was the good news. That was all the fun stuff. If you don't want to see any more, if you don't want to hear about what I thought was ugly or bad, we can stop right here. Or you could stay and listen and let me explain why 3 games in particular felt like they could have been done better or developed more, or been a little bit more thoughtful about their approach. And then after that, let's have a look at 3 or 4 very innovative titles that I think really deserve a lot more credit than perhaps they have received. So first off, let's talk about these 3 titles. And let's start with the number 3 baddest one for me
3. I'm really good at that.
was What If 1938. Now, recently I had, in 2017, I played, I think it was 1937 What If, or 1938 What If Poland, or something like that. And it was a magazine game coming out of the Compass Paper Wars. Is that Compass? Maybe it is, yeah. Compass Paper Wars magazine. And a TIE Bomber game. And you've probably seen, if you follow any of the sort of social media stuff on Facebook, occasionally I'll sort of have a few comments about some of TIE Bomber's newer designs. And it's not just me. There's a lot of folks that have commented on the generic nature of the designs, the maps, the counters, and in some cases, the folks that have actually played the games are also disappointed with the gameplay, the virtual conditions, whether or not there are zones of control, some of the OB, and a wide variety of other things. And the harsh reality, unfortunately, for 1938 What If is, while it's actually one of the more interesting games in the What If sequence that I think goes from 1938 all the way to 52 or something like that, it's the same set of rules and almost the same victory conditions and the same abstracted level of play that I've played half a dozen other times from way back in the old Command magazine days. So I struggled with the game art-wise. I struggled with the inaccuracies in the map, and there were cities in the wrong spot. The rules had the cities in the wrong spot by hex number, and there were there was just this level of abstraction that made it kind of silly, and it felt like it had been given a cursory overview in testing and pushed out the door. And I understand that there are some folks that do this for a living and it's their only source of income. That and maybe writing or whatever the case may be. And don't get me wrong, I love TIE Bomber's magazine write-ups he does for these quarterlies that come out from S&T magazine. I think they're fantastic. The Stalingrad edition was fantastic. Wonderful maps in that, really, really well done. But the games, I think, where he's not able to sell 2,000 or 3,000 copies at a time, he's trying to make it up in volume by selling 200 copies of basically the same system with a different map and slightly different counters. And it just got frustrating after a while, because I keep trying to find a gem out of these and go, oh, this is the one, this is the TIE Bomber game you need to get and play. And I just think it feels lazy. And that's certainly not a criticism of his diligence in his work effort, because he puts a lot of games out, so there's a lot of work being done. But it's a criticism of the lack of perhaps thoughtfulness or creativity that goes into his games. There are 2 game systems he uses, and they apply equally to pretty much any situation. And I'm done with them, so there will be no more TIE Bomber games coming into this house until I hear from somebody else who tells me it's awesome. All right, so what was the
2?
What was the second most difficult game for me to play this last year? Proud Monster Deluxe. 3 times we set this thing up on Vassal. 3 times we got started. Twice we had to restart. And then after the 3rd time, we just said, you know what, we're done. We were done with the inconsistencies with the rules. We were done with the little clever, tricky little rules that require 10 plays to get them right and find all the Easter eggs. If you're going to play a game that spans 2 or 3 maps and has several hundred counters on it, you don't get tricky little nuancy bullshit rules like you can attack an empty hex, right? So that you can advance and get across the river, so that next turn you don't have to pay the movement cost to get across the river. And oh, by the way, that's the only way you're going to get to Moscow. we had several of those types of examples in the rules that were, for me and for my gameplay partner, relatively problematic. To the extent that after 3 efforts, we just decided to give up on it. And that was really disappointing because I think there's a solid game there. And I also don't know that, we'll leave Don's peccadillos out of it, but I'm not sure the designer wants to hear criticism or commentary. He'll listen, but won't take any action necessarily. Although he did make one smart-ass rule change to help me because of the way the odds table works. Anyway, so the third game that
Yay! One!
I played last year that was early in the year, and quite frankly, I don't remember a lot about it, but I believe you can find a video online about it, but it was the Millennium Wars Lebanon scenarios out of one of the magazines. I think it was in either Paper Wars or Counterfact or whatever it was. And in fact, I think the 1938 What If was in Counterfact magazine, now that I think about it. But terrible rules and horribly organized and difficult to understand, and it didn't make sense. There were things that you could do that were bizarre, and I don't understand where this system came from or how it got to be the way it is. There's other modules out. I thought that this was a full and complete module that I could play and get a taste for the system and then go buy all the rest of it, because the concepts are really interesting. These rounds of activity that occur based on your capability and basically your initiative, right? Your quality. I thought that was pretty interesting, and there are certainly a wide range of different activities that you can execute and conduct as a different by different unit types. And on the back of each counter, there are a set of icons for all the different activities you can conduct. But all these activities are jammed in this tiny little table with small fonts and almost unreadable dense text that explain how you go about doing activity X versus activity Y, and there's these little icons that represent that on the counter, and then you got to go dig it up and look at it in the rule book, and it made it really challenging to actually get a lot of value or clarity out of that game. And the map was probably one of the most atrocious looking maps I've ever seen anyway. So that hit my top -- 1 most disliked game for the year. Let's have a look at now 3 very innovative titles, in fact 4 very innovative titles that I think would serve you well if you were able to track them down and buy them this year in 2019.
You want to know what's happening on the big board? I'll tell you what's happening on the big board. Kevin, CEO, big man, is counting.
Ooh, alright, so the first is Heroes of Normandy, The Untold Stories. And you might say, well, hey Kevin, that's just an expansion for Lock and Load Heroes of Normandy. Why would anybody care about that? It's just going to be more scenarios and some extra special rules and bits and pieces like that. Well, you're absolutely right. That's what it is. But it's more than that, because this expansion comes with a book on Audible. If you want to listen to 4 stories, actually it's more than 4 stories, it's 12 stories I believe. Let me just see how many are in here and I'll tell you. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 stories that you can listen to, or you can purchase the Kindle, whatever digital book version, or you can actually buy the paperback version of the book and have a read or a listen, and then go play the scenarios and play as Mac, as one of the Scottish characters who are in the airborne that have landed and they're trying to take the farmhouse. You can go play that scenario. What a great idea! What a great way to deepen and enrich the narrative experience in gameplay. I think that was probably a very it's probably been done before. I don't know if it has. Team Yankee is the first thing that comes to mind, but I think Team Yankee was written and then a game was made after it. This was all purpose built and put together in this fashion, and I think that's great. Combined with that, of course, there was a follow-on expansion called We Stand Alone: Battles of Easy Company, which is obviously about the paratroopers. But I thought those were a very interesting take on bringing something different to the table for Wii gamers. The next thing that is on my list here, if I can pick up the box, is Optimatis and Popularis. So, fascinating game here. Very minimalist in its content. 2 display sheets, 88 counters, and 8-page rulebook, and a die. And it's really all about politics, and I'm not a big politics Euro gamer guy. And this is kind of a chip placement game, I guess I would say. You're trying to build up your influence and power in the Senate while you keep the... have I got that upside down? I do. While you... I really should do marketing for a living. You're trying to build up these tracks so that you can keep your influence in society with the merchants and with the populace and with the military as well. So it's just got these simple little tracks here that you've got to kind of keep populated. And I'm looking for, where is the there's 2 tracks. Here we go. So you've got to keep the legions happy, keep the poor happy, keep the Italic franchise in play. You got to work at how you're going to deal with the agrarian reforms and debt relief and the grain dole. So here's another chart. Hopefully that'll focus up. Now you can buy upgraded versions of these now. I think it's got either canvas maps or mounted versions or something of that nature. And it's a relatively fast playing game, and it's a really fun, interesting game. It's a yet another Tom Russell title that is that's onion-like in its gameplay. The more you play it, the more you realize there are subtleties and layers to the gameplay and the decisions that you get to make and the impact on those decisions. This is one of those titles where anything you do to have a positive effect in one aspect of the game is probably either A, going to give you a negative effect in some other aspect of the game, or give your opponent an advantage. I hate those games. Great fun, innovative, fun stuff. All right, Inferno's way down the bottom on the stack here, so I'm not going to pull it out again, and you already had a look at it. I'll just say that Vento Nuovo games, just like Hollenspiel, while Hollenspiel is certainly leveraging a lot of external designers and publishing at an amazing rate because of its print-on-demand business model, Vento Nuovo Games is growing as well, but much more organically with just the one designer developer working with a team of folks in Italy and a small crew of employees. And the Inferno title for me was a insight into how smart you can make an AI with very, very simple rules versus a lot of the overly complex and overwrought AI systems that we're seeing kind of popping up. And it's kind of like it's a mini trend going on in wargaming at the moment where every title comes out, the first question out of anybody's mouth is, does it have an AI? I can't play it without an AI. Well, I think you've been spoilt by some of these coin games that these resource management Euro style or war Euro style games where you are playing against an AI which has just 2 or 3 or 4 different things it can do. That's fine, right? But hex and counter games are not meant necessarily to be bounded by an AI or a game assistant style system. there are a lot of difficulties and complexities, and I think a lack of richness of gameplay that comes from that sort of stultified approach. Inferno has managed to crack the code on fixing that and making a very dynamic AI opponent cause all sorts of havoc for you and still feel authentic and real and somewhat Soviet-like in its demeanor and behavior, and that really makes for a fascinating experience as a solo game. Not only that, that game Inferno can be played opposed, cooperatively, and solo. And there are 2 levels of solo. And if you're stupid enough to try and play the hard designer level, God bless you, but don't expect to win, because it ain't gonna happen, as far as I can tell anyway. I put 5, 6, 7 plays into that thing and enjoyed it immensely. It's a race against the clock, and you snooze, you lose, and you have to be prepared to be as bloodied as just about anything. It is not, though, a historical representation of Stalingrad. It's not going to give you the day by day and the moment by moment and the exact arrival and departure of various units. That's not going to happen. It is going to give you the flavor and the feel of the siege-like mentality that occurred and the dramatic choices that need to be made, perhaps, during that campaign. So fascinating, fun, innovative, clever, gorgeous artwork, gorgeous components, beautiful box. I can't speak more highly or effusively about the components of that game. And the gameplay. Okay, so which brings me to my last innovator for 2018. Also, also a European company, Thin Red Line Games, 1985, Under an Iron Sky. This Fabrizio has built this company from scratch with his buddy in a enthusiastic, passion-led desire to bring SBI titles back to life. And so he took what in essence is Mark Herman's game, and he was the developer on it, of The Next War, which is a fundamentally has some potential flaws in it, right? The gameplay is long and difficult, and the air war has its challenges, and the CRT has its challenges, and the naval game is just torturous. But it was on a topic at a battalion and regimental scale that got everyone's attention, and it was wildly popular for a long time. And this is Mr. Bettinelli's what's the right word? It's his way of honoring that, but reinventing it and giving it its a fresh face, a fresh look, with beautiful. This is a piece of paper map, but these are also paper maps, but they're very thick, beautiful, flexible bits and pieces here. But giving it a more modern look and feel. I don't know if that's coming up all right. A new air war system, which a new AA system as well, which arguably is potentially just as challenging and difficult as the original, but in a different way. It's focused on sectors on the map versus sectors across overall, and then a different resolution methodology as well. But a noble effort here. And they get points for putting the love into the design. The lots of counters here. Obviously, I'm not going to get into too much detail on it. You can look at my videos. I played this a couple of scenarios out of this and did the Checkpoint Charlie scenario and kind of walked through that. And I have not played the main campaign game yet. And I do still actually do have some reservations about this system and the game overall as to whether or not it's going to fix the sort of the core problem I found with The Next War, which was that if you're NATO, really all you need to do, if you can identify the main thrust of the advance for the Soviets, all you got to do is line up those little battalions of dipsticky French and Belgian and British units and just line them up one after the other along the road or around the area, and make the Soviets, you know, fight through all those guys and bump up their fatigue level, and maybe inflict a step loss on them because of the way the CRT works, right? That was to me, that was the biggest issue with both the CFS system and the Next War system. They had that core fundamental problem, I think, that artificially stacking battalions along a stretch of highway where there's forest on each side, for instance, you can clog up 3 divisions there and nobody's going anywhere. That said, I think this might have that problem potentially as well, and the air war may be a little cluttered still. It might benefit from a revisit from someone who's played the campaign. Once you've played the campaign a half a dozen times, kind of work it out and see if there's a way to tweak that little sucker a bit. I've had some thoughts on it. Haven't really shared them with anybody yet, but I think things could be done in a different manner. And I was playing with another Modern War game designer, and he kind of had similar thoughts. In fact, gave me some ideas on how things could be tweaked. Lots of great charts in here. Like I said, the counter work is nice. I really think this is one of 2018's best high-end productions. Only made 500 copies of this thing. Immediately had to go out and do another run of 500 or 250, I think. And they're all sold out. It's unavailable. It's heavy. It's expensive. It's a $200 game. So you want it to be right. It's not a game. It's not a game kit in a box. It's a game and it works. But I think it has potential to be even better with some experimental gameplay by you geniuses out there, right? All right. That's all I had for you. And I hope that you found it interesting and fascinating, and we'll catch you soon. And I want to give a special thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't wait till we meet, Kevin.
So let's give a special thank you to Dan Pelcaldi, my erstwhile online friend, who has his own blog channel, No Enemies Here. And you should check that out if you want the weekly dose of wargaming news, new titles that are out, what all the video bloggers are doing, his opinions on those. Some of his own music will be played while he's presenting that, or as interludes or intermezzios, as he likes to call them. And you can enjoy his music, his creativity, and his video blog every week. It's out. You should try it sometime. Not only that, you can give him money, and I think you should. For some reason, when you live in Canada and you want to try and have a game sent to you, apparently it's enormously expensive. So, and he likes to do these overviews and unboxings and things like that. He's a big shot on the Dice Towers, or whatever that channel's called that all the Euro gamers are on. So he's like a big deal over there too, not just in our little wargamer world. So go support him on Patreon or Patreon or whatever the hell it's called, or throw him a shekel, whatever, crumbs under the table, anything like that would be good. I'm sure he'll take it all. Any way you can get it, he'll take it. All right, peace out. Thanks for watching.